Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that, and also if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well, if there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and of course this year's edition of the ESC is over and done with. It took place in Liverpool in the UK on behalf of previous champions Ukraine, with Sweden coming out on top for a record equaling 7th time. I was there with my friend Peter on the pierhead in the Eurovision village on the day of the final, and you may well have seen two videos that I recorded on that day. One was me and my friend Peter reacting to the public half of the results as they came in, and I'm very, very grateful to everybody who's seen that video, and indeed the other video, which was more of a vlog from the day of the grand final. Most of the clips were of me in my friend's car on the way up there, rather than in Liverpool itself, but nevertheless, there is a vlog, and I'm very grateful once again to everybody who has seen that video too. But now that the dust has settled, I can tell you that I absolutely intend on making videos throughout the Eurovision off-season. They will be less frequent, of course, but there will be videos from me probably once every week and a half or 2 weeks, something like that. I have absolutely every intention of restarting my series where I take a look back at older editions of the contest. It's been ages since I filmed a video in that series, but I will be going back to it at some point, and I've got a few other ideas for videos as well. So, with that being said, you've seen the title of this video, which is Eurovision 2003 versus Eurovision 2023. And the idea for this video came to me a few days ago, and I looked up some information about the 2003 contest, and today, as I'm recording this video you're watching now, is the 20th anniversary of that show, which took place in Riga, Latvia. 26 nations, a record at the time, were involved, including Ukraine making their debut. Turkey won, Belgium was second, Russia were third. It was a very, very close voting procedure, and Sertab Arena, with Every Way That I Can, was the act and song that came out on top. And the UK, of course, received a big fat 0 for the first time. I've said it before on my channel and I'll say it again, it's a contest that is very special to me because it's sort of where it all began for me personally as a Eurovision fan. I have very hazy memories of that 2003 contest, watching it on TV, listening to the songs. And I know I've said this story before, but I'll say it again briefly here now. A couple of years afterwards, I was in a music store and they had the 2003 CD for sale, which was remarkable because this would have been 2007 maybe, something like that, and I was becoming more of a Eurovision fan at that point. I would have been about 13 or 14 years old, and I bought that 2003 CD, which I still have. It's on my shelves right now, and when I listened to it, I could remember some of the songs. And it was the first time since 2003 I'd heard them, but I could remember the melodies of some of the tracks, the lyrics, the artists themselves. The memories sort of came flooding back, if you see what I mean. And it's a contest that has always been very dear to my heart. And today, as I just said, it's 20 years since that contest. Absolutely remarkable. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go through the 2003 tracks and the 2023 tracks, and I'm going to decide which entry I prefer. So, for example, do I prefer Gemini with Crybaby, or I Wrote a Song by Mae Muller? You see the point I'm trying to make here. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be mentioning every country here because some countries didn't participate in 2003, and some countries didn't participate in the most recent contest in Liverpool either. So, for example, Turkey were there as winners in 2003, but weren't involved this year. And I can't mention the likes of San Marino or Denmark, for example, because they weren't involved 2 decades ago. So with that being said, let's get going. What I will say is that I tried to film this video yesterday about 15 times, but kept messing up. So hopefully this video will go off without a hitch. We'll see. As always, let me know your thoughts about the songs. Maybe, let me know which year you prefer, 2003 or 2023. And maybe there's a specific contest for you that is very special to your heart. Maybe there's a specific song which is very special to you, sort of where it all started for you personally in terms of becoming a Eurovision fan. Whatever it is, do let me know. And as always, there are links in the description to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish. On the joint Instagram page that I co-run with my friend Peter, rajc.esc, I actually put up a post about the 2003 contest earlier today. So, yes, first things first, this is what I'm probably going to be watching later on today. This is a DVD of the 2003 contest, and you're probably wondering how on earth I have this, because there is no official 2003 DVD. Long story short, years ago, I was on this website and I bought this, and clearly it's some sort of VHS that's being burned onto a DVD, something like that. So I might well check this out later and reminisce 20 years on to the day. And I've also got the official programme book from this year, which I picked up in Liverpool. And I'm just going to use this to help me talk a little bit about the artists from this year. And I'm going to use Wikipedia to inform me about the artists of 2003. So let's get going at last, 6 minutes in. Iceland opened the 2003 contest, and this is such a special song to me. It's absolutely one of my all-time favourites. It's nothing particularly incredible. It's not a song that's doing anything particularly unique or interesting, but there's something very uplifting, emphatic, pleasant, sweet about it. Absolutely wonderful stuff. It is Open Your Heart by Birgitta. This finished joint 8th with Spain on 81 points. Birgitta Haukdal Brynjarsdottir is 43, from Husavik, which is where the Eurovision Fire Saga movie is predominantly set. She's been involved in Songförkeppning many, many times. She's also part of a band. Absolutely fantastic, and she's won a couple of Icelandic music awards as well. And like I said, this song, what a great way to get the show going. Very simply staged. She just stood there really for 3 minutes wearing this sort of white outfit with this gold choker, big flower in her hair, flowers in her hands at one point in the song as well. Really, really lovely stuff, and absolutely a song that has stuck with me throughout all these years. Absolutely one of my all-time favourites. This year, Iceland were represented as well by a solo female act, and I'm just trying to find her in my book here. It is, of course, Diljá Pétursdóttir with Power, and it says here, being a new name on a big stage can sometimes be challenging, but that didn't faze this young and powerful singer-songwriter, who is, apparently, a physiotherapy student and a committed CrossFit athlete. How about that? So which song do I prefer? It's got to be 2003. I'll make a note of this on my trusty whiteboard. As much as I love Power, I think Open Your Heart just has that extra dollop of nostalgia to it, and absolutely I wouldn't mind seeing Birgitta back at Eurovision at some point soon. She's still a great singer, absolutely, and I've liked her other Songförkeppning entries, and maybe this is why I always have a bit of a soft spot for Iceland every year. Maybe it stems from that particular track 2 decades ago. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, Iceland 2003 is the one that I prefer, although Power, I should say, is in my personal top 10 from this year's Liverpool staged contest. We then move on to Austria, and something I need to do here is this and this, so bear with me. This was Alf Poyer with Veil de Mensch Zelt. He was born in 1967 in Styria. He's an artist and stand-up comedian, and does it say here? Yes, it does. After the contest in 2003, he was on a TV show on BBC Three here in the UK, and he was very, very critical of the contest. Yes, I do have vague memories of that. Anyway, it says here he hasn't released a single or anything like that in over a decade. There's a picture of him here wearing a red nose. It was a very comical type of performance. He was in this red top, sort of bopping about on the spot. He had a couple of backing singers off to one side, one of whom had a feather boa, if I recall, and then also on the other side, cardboard cutouts of animals. And it's a sort of very twee song. Certainly it sounds like the theme song to a children's TV show, to be honest with you, at first. But then it turns into sort of a rock number at certain points in the track. Very, very bizarre. It's a very sort of schizophrenic track. I've never been a huge fan of it, but despite performing second, this finished with 101 points in 6th place. Now, where is that video that I'm trying to find here? Is it this one? No, it's not that. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, anyway, Austria performed second in 2003 and first in 2023 with, of course, Who the Hell is Edgar by Teya and Salena. Both artists had come close to Eurovision stardom before. Salena was second in Austria's 2019 pre-selection, where Penda beat her to the draw, and Teya lost out to Vincent Bueno in 2020. The talented twosome wrote the satirical Who the Hell is Edgar by drawing on their experiences as female songwriters in an industry that all too often doesn't give women enough credit for their hard work and expertise. Where is this video? Yes, there we are. Just wait for that to load up. So which 2023 entry do I prefer by Austria? Well, the simple answer is 2023. It just stands out a bit more to me. That po 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 refrain is still absolutely stuck in my head, and although both of these Austrian tracks are a little bit comical, I suppose you could say, I just think 2023 has something more about it. So Austria goes into the 2023 column. My God, am I rambling here, or am I rambling? I've just got this recap video up here so I can sort of... Yes. No, I think it was one of the cardboard cutouts had a feather boa. Oh, maybe I'm making that up. Anyway, let's move on to Ireland, shall we? And Ireland... I've got too many things here. Ireland, in 2003, were represented by Mickey Hart, who is 49 from County Donegal, still making music. Yes, indeed. We've Got the World reached #1 in Ireland, absolutely. He's been on lots of other TV shows and what have you in his homeland as well. This finished 11th with 53 points. It's a really simple track, very pleasant ditty, playing a green guitar, wearing a black outfit. There he is, having a great time. Lots of blue lighting, very confidently done. Couple of backing singers off to one side, doing that sort of typical swaying on the spot motion. Very, very nice. This year, Ireland were represented by an all-male group, Wild Youth with We Are One. I've spoken about these songs so many times now. But what I will say is, I really don't mind this track. It was just so generic, lyrically not doing anything that interesting whatsoever. I thought the vocals were a bit iffy as well, not only at the national final performance, but in Liverpool too, and of course this failed to qualify. So it's a pretty easy one for me here. I'm going to say that Ireland goes into the 2003 column. We move on to not Turkey, but Malta, and 2 decades ago they were represented by a woman, Lynn Sherkop, who was born in 1980, and it says here that she's an advocate specialising in human rights and international law, but there's no source for this, so I've no idea if that's true or not, but there we are. And her song was called To Dream Again, and this was also super plain stuff. She was in white trousers and a pink top, couple of backing singers off to one side, holding a flower in her hand, very sweet, but ultimately very dull, and she finished on 4 points in 25th place. This year, Malta were second in the first semi-final, and it was something a lot more memorable. Dance Our Own Party by the Busco, an all-male group. It says here, the band is a little bit of soul, a little bit of pop, and a little bit of funk. Their signature sound has even won them the honour of Lovin' Music Awards Best Album of the Year. How about that? And, of course, they finished last with 3 points in that first semi-final. So 3 in 2023 and 4 in 2003. Oh dear. Anyway, it's going to be this year for Malta. A far, far better song. A far more memorable song. Absolutely. We then move on to Bosnia. We can't talk about them because they weren't involved this year, but we can talk about Portugal. And this year, Portugal were represented by a female soloist, as they were 2 decades ago. This year it was Ai Curajao by Mimi Cat, who had tried to represent her country in 2001, I think it was, and over 2 decades later, she was back. It says here, she's been singing and recording since the age of 9 and burst onto the scene big time in 2014 with the release of her critically acclaimed debut album, For You. And I've spoken about this song many times, this sort of burlesque style that she was going for, this big, red, feathery outfit. Didn't use the LED screens much in Liverpool, which I think was a bit of a shame, but there we are. Didn't do that well in the voting. She was on second, which is the death spot, of course, but this was still really fun, and lots of people in the arena and the Eurovision village really loved it. 2 decades ago, it was a female soloist, Rita Guerra, who is now 55, from Lisbon. She won the first ever season of Portugal's version of The Masked Singer. How about that? And she's also worked on the Portuguese soundtracks of various animated films, such as The Lion King and The Little Mermaid. How about that? Absolutely no album since 2006, it seems. And her entry in 2003 was Deixa-me Sonhar, which finished 22nd with 13 points. Fairly forgettable. Let me just look at the recap clip here. Yeah, sort of a gold dress. Again, a couple of singers off to one side in black outfits doing their thing. Yeah, pretty bland stuff, it has to be said. But it builds up nicely and she's got a pretty good voice. But it's going to be 2023 for me. So it's now 3-2 to this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, indeed. I'm losing track. Anyway, moving on to Croatia, song 8 in 2003. This was Claudia Benny with Više nisam tvoja, a sort of R&B pop number, which finished 15th with 29 points. Claudia Benny, 36 now, from Opatija, which is where the national final in Croatia takes place, does it not? Dora, I think so. Doesn't seem to have done anything since 2004. She's performed at a couple of festivals as well, and was only 12, apparently, when she first appeared in Croatia's national final. How about that? Anyway, this song, yeah, she was sort of scantily clad in a black and white outfit, couple of backing singers with her. The females were in pink trousers, and you've got 2 guys, one of whom is the spitting image of a young Perez Hilton, in black outfits. Yeah, this is not a bad song. Simple choreography, but executed fairly well. Not a bad performance at all. This year, Croatia were, of course, represented by another act in quite memorable outfits. Let 3 with Mama Sh, big band from Rijeka. They've been making music since the late 80s. They also released one album that was completely blank, but it was a big hit in Croatia. How about that? And, of course, this performance was all over the place. Sort of punkish, bizarre, all over the place, but finished in mid-table, which is Croatia's best result for a good few years. Which song do I prefer? Well, it has to be 2003, purely because I think I'll go back to that one more often than Mama Sh. But, as much as I am not a huge fan of Croatia's entry this year, fair play, because they took a risk, and it sort of paid off. Top 10 with the public in the final. We then move on to Cyprus. 2 decades ago, they were represented by a solo male act, as they were this year. Back then it was Stelios Konstantas, and it doesn't say much about him here at all. Apparently he's released one album. His song was called Feeling Alive, and he was in a crisp white suit, slick black hair, couple of dancers with him on stage, blue lighting. Not the most memorable performance at all, but of course Greece gave this the maximum 12 points. He finished in 20th place with 15 points. This year it was Andrew Lambrou from Australia with Cypriot roots, with Break a Broken Heart. Let me find him in the book here. There he is. Jimmy Jansson apparently co-wrote this song. He also co-wrote Tattoo. It says here he's got a strong social media presence and an ever-growing fan base. He was signed by a record company at the age of 17. He's had 3 hit singles under his belt, and of course he did try to represent Australia in the past as well. For me, it's 2023, Break a Broken Heart. Yeah, I mean, he sang it well. There's some big notes in this track, but I think he did a good job in hitting them. The stage was fairly bare in Liverpool, but he finished just outside the top 10, which is a pretty impressive result and a good return to form for Cyprus as well. So it's another one in the 2023 column. We move on to Germany. 20 years ago it was a female solo act. It was Lou with Let's Get Happy. She finished in joint 11th place with Ireland on 53 points. Now Louise Höfner, was born in 1963. She toured with her band for 15 years, and her last album was in 2013, apparently. Sort of ginger hair. She was on stage with a group of singers in colourful outfits. This was a very colourful performance, it must be said. And it's a very Schlager pop, quite campish style song, and I have to say younger me absolutely loved this, and it is still my 5th favourite of the Riga staged contest. This year it was of course a very, very striking act indeed. Lord of the Lost, big band in Germany, they've had a #1 album there, with Blood and Glitter, which sadly finished last. It says here they have an industrial metal image, and they're from Hamburg, and they're big news in Germany where they've built a considerable fan base. This is a bit of a difficult one, I have to say. Blood and Glitter is mid-table for me. As I said a moment ago, Let's Get Happy is my #5 of the 03 contest. I think it has to be 2003, just because of that nostalgia element to it, I guess. I will go back to that song more than I will Blood and Glitter. But Blood and Glitter is a great song. And I'm not really somebody who listens to a lot of metal stuff, a lot of aggressive stuff. But I really liked this, and I thought it was a really stellar performance on the night, and it deserved more love, but there we are. We move on to Russia, we miss out here, and move on to Spain. And back in 2003, this was a big song, and it's still really popular now. It was Beth with Dime, performed in Spanish, of course, which finished joint 8th with Iceland on 81 points. Now, Beth, her full name is Elizabeth Rodergas Coles. She's 41 now. She's released a whole bunch of albums. Her most recent one was in 2013. And she was a big star back in the early 2000s, no doubt about it. She was on Operación Triunfo. And Dime is a great pop song, quite typically Spanish. She was scantily clad in this sort of gold top, white trousers, couple of dancers with her. Some choreography too, a great bop, for want of a better word. And Beth, I believe, has been doing something to do with this song recently to mark the 20th anniversary of it. I can't quite recall. Anyway, this year, Spain were represented by a female solo act in Blanca Paloma with Ea, which is this sort of modern flamenco-style song. It was just lost on the audience, unfortunately. Last with the public in the grand final, which was shocking. Couldn't believe it, still can't believe it. But this is a really great song, and vocally she was absolutely one of the best this year, if not the best singer of the entire Liverpool competition. Which song do I prefer? It is going to be Spain, which is my #3 of the 2003 contest. It is Spain. Yeah, great song, great pop song, still listen to it now. And in fact, many years ago, we had this thing to do in Spanish class. For those of you that don't know, I might have mentioned it in passing before. I studied Spanish for many years, and at one point we had to talk about a Spanish language song. And I thought, well, I could pick Enrique Iglesias or somebody like that, and I think the other people in my class did pick him. But I went for this song, and then I had to talk about it in Spanish, which was a bit more difficult. But what a great song, ladies and gentlemen. We move on because, my God, my voice is starting to hurt, and this is just a bit of a messy video. But bear with me, Israel is next. In 2003, they were represented by Lior Narkis, who's 46, still making music now, and it says here, yeah, he's released a whole bunch of albums, and his first record came out when he was 16. And Words for Love was the name of his track, performed in Hebrew with phrases in a bunch of other languages. He finished 17th, no he didn't, he finished 19th with 17 points. And this year, of course, it was Israel's biggest star on the Eurovision stage, Noah Kirel with Unicorn. There she is, beautiful woman. The song was co-written by Doron Medali, who did Golden Boy and Toy, so he's got pedigree when it comes to Eurovision. This was all about the choreography. It was very slick. It really felt very professional and ready for Eurovision. They were in it to win it, and of course Noah finished 3rd in the end and did really well with the juries. So which song do I prefer? The sort of fun, cheeky, playful nature of Words for Love or Unicorn? It's going to be Unicorn, absolutely. We move on. Then we have the Netherlands, and in 2003 it was Esther Hart, who also tried to represent the UK that year, I believe. She's 52 now. She's been a spokesperson for the Netherlands as well in the past, and her song was called One More Night, which is a really good, feel-good track. She was in this gold outfit, couple of backing dancers with her, backing singers. Really, really nice, very uplifting stuff. She finished 13th with 45 points. This year we had a duo, Mia Nicolai and Dion Cooper, with Burning Daylight. It says here, Mia has lived in London for 2 years and she'd like to marry Harry Styles. How about that? Mia also had a creative upbringing, packed with violin lessons and ballet. And of course, Duncan Lawrence was the co-writer of this year's Dutch entry, but it failed to qualify. Which one do I prefer? 2023. Narrowly. Yes, even though it was an NQ, it's my third favourite of this year's competition. And as much as I love One More Night, I think Burning Daylight lyrically it hits home a little bit more, and I thought they did a really good job with the staging. I was a little bit unsure how it was going to come across, but I think it worked reasonably well, but I did expect them to not qualify because there just wasn't much support for this track. We move on to the UK. Well, of course, 20 years ago it was Liverpool's own, how about that, Gemini with Crybaby. I cannot believe this was the song we chose to go to Eurovision, but there we are. Last place, 0 points. And Gemini, consisting of Chris Crombie and Gemma Abbey, they have reunited a couple of times, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do something today to mark the 20th anniversary of that disastrous performance. She was in this really short red dress. I mean, what on earth that was all about, I don't know. And he was very casually dressed, as though he'd just stepped out of a nightclub. A couple of backing singers. It was just a bland performance. I'm looking at a clip of it now. Yeah, very, very uninspired. It's a pop track, of course, but doesn't really leave much of an impression. This year on home soil, we had Mae Muller, who has announced her debut album, with I Wrote a Song, 25, from London, millions of views on YouTube and TikTok, 2 billion streams, and she's performed on Jimmy Fallon's show in the USA, The Voice USA, and nominated for EMA and VMA awards as well. So she's doing very well for herself, it has to be said. And it is going to be a tick in the 2023 column for the UK, a pretty easy decision. Then we have Ukraine, who were making their debut 2 decades ago. It was Alexander with Hasta la Vista. There he is with his glasses, 49 years of age now. Last released a song, or rather an album, in 2007, so he's been quiet for a while. This was a sort of pop song, but he had a sort of classical voice. And I'm just going to take a look here. He was in a white outfit, couple of dancers, there was a podium on stage as well. Yes, not one of Ukraine's best, but little did they know, by 2023 they would have won 3 times. Very, very impressive. Anyway, he finished 14th with 30 points, and this year it was the male duo Tvorchi with Heart of Steel. And it says here they've released 4 albums and millions of streams. The song is about bravery. But, I've got to be honest, Hasta la Vista takes the win for me here. I just think that I'll gravitate towards that one a bit more in the years to come. I don't really listen to it that much, but I think I prefer it. Got to be honest. This year's entry was sort of dark, a little bit R&B in style, but it was staged really well. The staging was the strongest part of the whole thing. But the 2003 track, I don't know, I guess that's the one that I just prefer ever so slightly. It is what it is. We move on to Greece, and this is already absolutely going to be a tick in the 2023 column, even though I'm not a huge fan of either track. This year it was 16-year-old Victor Vernikos, who wrote his song What They Say when he was 14. And what does it say about him here? Not much, I don't think. His career has only just started, to be honest. Yes, half Danish, a Danish father who plays the trumpet, and he's inspired by the likes of Ed Sheeran and Coldplay. His song was fine, the performance wasn't brilliant. A fairly bland outfit, smoke machine, not a whole lot happening visually. His vocals were better on the night than they were in the rehearsal clip that we all saw. But it's a song that just didn't really have much to grip onto, if you see what I mean. In 2003, the same sort of deal. This was Mando with Never Let You Go. She finished 17th with 25 points. Her full name is Adamantia Stamatopoulou, 57 years of age. She's performed with various orchestras, and she was a guest star on the semi-final of The Voice of Greece in 2014-15. She's released loads of albums. The last one was in 2017, apparently. I've just never been a huge fan of the song. It's actually my last place of the 03 contest. She was in this somewhat revealing sort of leather black dress, curly blonde hair, lovely voice, simply staged, but in my opinion ultra forgettable. We move on to Norway, my second favourite of the 03 contest. This was Jostein Hasselgaard with I'm Not Afraid to Move On. Simple outfit, sitting behind the piano, sort of floppy blonde hair, a very sweet ballad, pure jury bait. That's the sort of thing that we would say about this song these days. He finished 4th with 123 points. He started off very strongly in the voting and then faded away. And this year, of course, it was the Queen of Kings herself, she, Alessandra, with Queen of Kings, which she co-wrote. And it says here, the song carries a message of self-love. A Norwegian-Italian singer-songwriter, 25 million streams at the time of writing, already making her TikTok royalty, and her follow-up single, Pretty Devil, I think it's called, is out very soon. It's a close one, but it's going to be another one in the 2023 column. Second favourite this year, second favourite in 2003. Always liked Norway at Eurovision, to be completely honest with you. Two very different songs. One's a straightforward, maybe a bit of a schmaltzy ballad, I suppose you could say, and the other one is this fierce, empowering anthem. It's going to be Queen of Kings for me. Moving on, France. In 2003 it was Louise Bailèche, and we don't know much about her at all. Monte Merveille, the name of the song, which is actually one of my biggest growers of the 2003 contest. Guy playing the piano off to one side, she was in a red dress, her hair all over her face, which is a bit annoying, but there we are. A really gentle, relaxing track. This year, France were represented by another female soloist, Lazara with Évidemment, and it says here, she has 2 Sphinx cats and a parrot. This chanteuse channels the style of Audrey Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe with a healthy dose of Edith Piaf's sense of tragedy. Which song do I prefer? It's another one in the 2023 column. It's getting a bit one-sided now, I have to say. Évidemment finished mid-table, which was really surprising because it was a grand performance. She was in this great looking dress on top of this huge plinth, and you had the French flag with the lights behind her and the falling rain pyrotechnics. It was very classy and quite stylish, and surprisingly the jurors weren't really on board with it at all. Maybe the running order played a part, I don't know. Back in 2003, forgettable, I use that word a lot, but it was a fairly forgettable performance, but a nice track. Nevertheless, I prefer this year's French entry. We move on to Poland, and in 2003 they were represented by Ik Troje with Keine Grenzen Zadnich Granic, which is a sort of fairy tale-esque ballad. This finished 7th with 90 points, so it is still to this day one of Poland's best results. Performed in German, Polish and Russian. That's not a great impression, but the lead singer with a really gravelly voice. They've been making music since 1995. They're from Łódź. And yeah, they've had a lot of success. Their last album was in 2017. They've sold well over 1 million albums in their homeland. 2 best of albums as well. And of course they were back in 2006. The lead singer with his colourful hair. Let's take a look at the performance here. Yes, all in denim. A bold choice 2 decades ago. Red hair. A bird on the back of his jacket. I think he was in a relationship with the lead singer. Don't quote me on that. But a really nice song, albeit maybe a bit saccharine for some individuals. This year, of course, we had Blanka with Solo, and she came under a lot of fire because of that controversy in the Polish national selection, but she had the last laugh. She did really well in the final. She definitely upped her game because that national final performance was really quite shoddy, and vocally it was all over the shop. But at Eurovision, it was a lot more professional and a lot more slick. You had pyros, they went for this tropical theme, there was this costume change. Yes, it was pretty good. She probably would have had even more points had she been on later in the running order. It says here, half Polish, half Bulgarian, worked in the USA, and her favourite video game character is Blanka from Street Fighter 2. So there you go. She also co-wrote the song. Which one do I prefer? It's going to be 2003. Just a very nice, like I said, fairy tale type track. Takes a while to get going, but then it has a really powerful final third. Last few countries, we're getting there. Latvia next, the host nation in 2003. This was FLY with Hello from Mars, and this is a classic example of a host nation not really doing the business and following on from their victory the year before. This finished 24th with 5 points, and during the voting it looked as though they were going to get 0 points. This group consisted of Jana Lauris, who's tried many times to represent his country, and Martins Freimanis, who sadly passed away in 2011. He died of hepatotoxicity. Oh dear me. Yes, indeed. I knew that anyway. So this song, Hello from Mars, it's a bit of a silly track, I suppose. All white outfits, couple of backing singers. It's got this sort of positive, happy message to it, but it's nothing that amazing. I think younger me loved this more, it's fair to say. 20 years on, Latvia were represented by another band. How about that? There's lots of similarities that I've started to notice here. And it was Sudden Lights with Aya, this sort of gentle, autumnal, warm lullaby, all-male group. Not one of my big favourites this year, but a lot of people really loved it and still do, and they just missed out on qualifying. Serbia went through instead from that first semi-final. They're one of the most streamed artists in Latvia, 3 albums since forming in 2012 as students at music school. Yes, the title of the song apparently is impossible to translate, but it is the feeling of a Latvian folk song. Anyway, I think I'm going to go with 2003, to be honest with you. Again, just because of that nostalgia factor more than anything else. I think that's what's doing it here. Aya is really nice, and I think in years to come I will appreciate it a lot more. I don't mind it now, but I think Hello from Mars just edges it for me. Then we have Belgium, and they finished second in 2003 with Urban Trad, a Belgian folk music group consisting of both Flemish and French-speaking individuals. And they're still going today, but no album since 2007, it would appear. And this was a song in a made-up language, very dreamy, very otherworldly, sort of like a cultish chant, I suppose you could say. Never been a huge fan of it. Sanomi finished second with 165 points. And this year it was Gustav with Because of You, this sort of 90s dance pop camp style track. He was completely dismissed at first by most people in the Eurovision community, but then of course everybody started getting on board with it, and he did really well in the final, finishing 7th, I think it was, in the end. He co-wrote the song too, which is impressive, and he's been making music for 20 years and was a backing singer for Hooverphonic and Senec for Belgium at Eurovision as well. For me, it is going to be 2023. Certainly, I just think it stands out a bit more. We then move on to Estonia. What a cracking track 2 decades ago from Rufus, previously known as Claire's Birthday. They sort of split up after Eurovision. Vaiko Eplik, the lead singer, and he is a pretty big star in Estonia, still making music now, born in 1981. He's written loads of songs that have been in Eesti Laul over the years. Yes, I absolutely need to check out more of his stuff, but he was the lead singer here. Sean Peck was playing the guitar, and he's also tried numerous times since to go to Eurovision. He was part of Aureli Pois, and he's been on stage for a few other acts as well, I think. I can't quite recall. Anyway, this song is sort of jazzy lounge bar stuff, if you see what I mean. Really good, very throwback, and I'd love to have more songs like this in Eurovision. The lead singer, Vaiko himself, in a sort of bland shirt with red tie, and really going for it. Just a group of guys having a good time, almost as if they weren't really at Eurovision whatsoever. Aidi's coming back, finished 21st with 14 points, but I think the UK gave this 3, which is nice to see. This year, Estonia were represented by, oh, I can't even remember. It was Alika, of course, there we are, with Bridges, a lovely ballad. She did very, very well with the juries, not so much with the public, but at least she did make the final. I'm going to have to go, purely because it's a bit more fresh in my mind this year, but that is a close one, absolutely. Estonia, another country I have a soft spot for at Eurovision. We have 3 more countries to go. Let's rattle through them. Romania were represented in 2003 by Nicola with Don't Break My Heart. She has tried since to go back to Eurovision. She's 54, from Bucharest, and her last album apparently was in 2009. And this performance was very interesting. She had 2 dancers with her, one of whom kept taking her clothes off, and she was in this red coat. The dancers were in the colours of the Romanian flag, and you had this sort of checkerboard pattern on the floor and a guy playing cardboard vinyls. Very, very odd, but a pretty good song. And this year it was Teodor Ondrej with DJT Off and On. Started acoustically, turned into more of a rock track, didn't really have much support by the broadcaster, and ultimately fell very flat. So it is going to be 2003 Romania for me. Don't Break My Heart finished 10th with 73 points. Then we have Sweden. Back in 2003 it was Fame, Magnus Bäcklund and Jessica Andersson, who still turns up in Melfest every couple of years, with this big old typical Schlager pop Swedish polished stuff, Give Me Your Love, which finished 5th with 107 points. And they were in white outfits. Yes indeed, pretty much. Absolutely. Pretty bog standard stuff, but very uplifting at the same time. And it is my 4th favourite of the O3 contest. And this year, of course, it was Loreen with Tattoo. And I'm going to have to go with 2023. Of course, Loreen had won Eurovision before. She came back, didn't need to, but there she was on the Liverpool stage, sandwiched between these 2 LED screens pretty much, and the smoke, and in this brown outfit, pushing the screen up. Very powerful stuff. And the juries absolutely loved her. The public had her second, and she won, of course, and next year the contest is going to be back on Swedish soil. That leaves, ladies and gentlemen, I really apologise for the messiness of this video, that leaves Slovenia. Song 26 2 decades ago, Carmen Stavic with Na Na Na. I think the runner-up in the national final that year was Nusha Dorenda from 2001, and she did very well in the OGAE, or OJ Second Chance contest. But anyway, Carmen Stavic, 49, born in Berlin. She did return to the national final in 2009. No album in 2 decades. And it doesn't really say much else about her, to be honest with you. Na 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 is a catchy song. She was in a pink outfit. Her backing singers were in pink outfits. And ultimately, this just didn't leave much of an impression. But it is a very catchy track. Sort of simple pop with a slight disco edge, I would say. Ever so slightly. Anyway, 7 points, 23rd place. 4 points was the maximum there from Bosnia. This year, of course, Joker out with Carpe Diem, one of the biggest acts in Slovenia, with a song in the Slovene language, and they looked super confident on stage. It felt like a Joker out concert, nothing to do with Eurovision whatsoever, in these sort of vintage-looking outfits, very confidently done, and deserved more love on the night. They finished towards the bottom, unfortunately, but at least it was a big step in the right direction for Slovenia after years in the wilderness, and it is going to be a tick in the 2023 column. So, hopefully I didn't mess up here. Apologies if so. Let's work this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for 2003. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14... for 2023. So it is a victory for Liverpool over Riga, which is interesting because, as I said at the start, 2003 is a very special contest to me, and it's sort of where it all started for me in terms of becoming a Eurovision fan. Maybe the same for you, I don't know. But there we have it, yes, 2023 comes out on top. I wonder what it would be like if I did this again in 2033. Would I prefer that competition, 2023, 2013, of course I could have included that here, or 2003. Anyway, that about wraps up this video. I have nothing more to say. Very messy, but that's nothing new on this channel, is it? And I just want to take this opportunity, as I wrap this video up, to say a massive thank you for all of the support over the past few months. It means a great deal. Anybody who shared a video, liked a video, subscribed, left a comment, all of that good stuff, I really do appreciate it. And let me know your thoughts on the O3 contest, and indeed this year's contest. Whatever it is, you're very welcome to let me know. You can contact me here or via my other social media pages. Links in the description as always. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe. I will be back with more Eurovision related videos very soon. Take care, hopefully the quality wasn't too bad, and bye for now.